family moved us to New Mexico, I think in 1979, and pretty soon after my arrival, I started to notice cholo graffiti in my neighborhood. And I can remember specifically my mother saying, if you see writing like that on walls, you shouldn't be in that neighborhood. And that was certainly my initial introduction to real graffiti. And then soon after, the hip-hop explosion kind of jumped off with breakdancing movies, and I started to see a lot of hip-hop graffiti around as well. That was probably 84, 85, I would say. As an early teenager, I had shown interest in the cholo, handstyles, stuff like that, and I remember seeing Teen Angels magazines around. Some of my Latino and Mexican friends had them, but because I was kind of a white boy heavy metal kid, they didn't really want me to see it or want me to understand it. So they hid that stuff from me for a long time. And it wasn't until I was a graffiti writer, and even a pretty well-known graffiti writer, and had proved myself somewhat on the street, that some of my fellow writer friends who had experience with cholo fonts and things from their involvement in gangs when they were younger, they finally passed that information on to me. My buddy Mr. Went has a really extensive collection of old Lowrider and Teen Angel magazines, and I think it was one of the first 5 issues of Lowrider. There was I think it's the contents page. They had written out all the different sections by hand, and that's where I grabbed that Lowrider font from. It was just, it was one of the only handwritten things like that I had seen, and it was also a really particular different style. I think it was from the 70s, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure when Lowrider magazine started, but it was around then. You know, at first I was kind of wary of using it, and then oddly, when I would sign things for my buddy Mr. Went, he'd be like, yo, do that Pachuco cross, you know? And it was like, if he was into it, I was like, all right, I'm going to use it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's all that came from. From what I understand, I'll just do a little one. Consafos, it kind of literally translates to with safety or with security, but it also kind of means that if you mess with me, you're messing with my whole gang. So typically there would be, let's say, a roll call of all of the gang name at the top, and then all the members in the gang, and then at the bottom it would have a CS, and that just meant that if you messed with anybody here, you're messing with all of them. And also that they could write the name of the gang and everybody's names real legibly with security. So it was like, we're doing this and like, fuck you, or EK as they would say, you know, like, what? You know, as a bravado thing. And then they would just add little whatever, you know, just stuff. Let me see. Well, I think in this case the pluses far outweigh the minuses. You know, at this point I feel like graffiti is, you know, a grown man, you know, and it's got a lot of history, and I think we need to understand that history. And from what I see on the streets these days, I think a lot of, you know, graffiti writers, obviously, who are using a lot of fonts, but also graphic designers and things too, it's getting a little, to me, it's getting too derivative of things that were already derivative of other derivatives. It continues to just pile on It's like everybody gets the same fonts, and they just keep using them. And I think that there's something really powerful in doing it by hand and keeping that tradition alive. And I think books like this will really keep that tradition alive and also give younger people a foundation. I think a lot of graffiti writers, when they come up these days, aren't given alphabets by their mentors. They're learning on the internet, and that's a big difference. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that.
Flipping the script.
Yeah, I got that from Craig, kinda, from KR. I used to do it like this. That's right, the E was different. When I first moved to San Francisco, this was the one I did on everything. And then I had that E like that, and sometimes I would even do that. I ran that one for years. And I would do a little halo sometimes. The little things. Maybe an arrow. I forget how that happened. Maybe it was how he wrote out a KR1 one time. I forget, man. Yeah, something. Wish I could think of different ones now.